Welcome to Tall Tales and Stories. Dive into a world where imagination knows no bounds. Here, we spin outrageous tall tales, thrilling adventures, and captivating stories that will leave you questioning what's real and what's not. Whether you're a fan of folklore, creative storytelling, or just love a good yarn, you've found your home. Subscribe now and let the stories begin.
Chapter 1. Call me Joe. Let me assure you, if you get hungry enough, you'll do what you must. We had grown accustomed to getting by with next to nothing, but things were pretty tight that winter. It all started the spring before. We decided the fastest way to make some money and get out of poverty was to grow a crop of marijuana. We boarded up the door to a bedroom, making it a secret room, with the only entrance being a crawlway under a kitchen cabinet. We planted about 100 plants under grow lights. We made sure to feed and water them faithfully, patiently awaiting our anticipated harvest and cash reward for our effort and risk. One of the biggest problems we had was keeping bulbs in our grow lights. For some reason, light bulbs and other electrical devices were constantly going haywire whenever I was around. I don't know if it's static electricity from my body or what. I had no idea what I was doing and assumed the plants would provide if we waited long enough. About 6 months into this project, we discovered the only way the plants could ever begin flowering and morph into a sellable product was to provide 12 hours of darkness for every 12 hours of light. We didn't know this essential fact and had been lighting ours up, pardon the pun, 24/7, thinking this would just make them grow bigger and faster. We finally learned this lesson and began the process required. Still, we were looking at a minimum of 2 more months before we could harvest anything, and we were out of money, food, everything. So, I don't remember whose idea it was, probably mine, but we all agreed starving to death was not an option. Not when there was a field full of cattle nearby. Not our cattle, of course, but hunger does strange things to your sense of right and wrong, so we decided to rustle one of the cows and butcher it.
Thanks for listening.
The weather forecast for that night was cold and clear with a full moon. Perfect for our little crime spree. We planned everything down to the last detail. About midnight, we would drive a small number of cattle into a loading pen near the road and try to lasso one. We took along a sledgehammer, rope, sharp knife, and a box of heavy-duty 30-gallon trash bags. Mom stayed behind to watch things there and get ready to butcher once we got home with our stolen beef. As we headed out the door, she called to us, "Don't get caught, they would throw us under the jail." I laughed and told her not to worry, and we were on our way. My brother-in-law Floyd, and my best friend Bruce and I. It was easier than I thought it would be to lasso a cow. We drove about a dozen into the enclosure and picked out the smallest one, and pretty quickly had the rope around its neck and headed toward our destination. The area contains several thousand acres of woods and streams. I have walked every inch of it over the years and knew every possible nook and cranny. I selected a secluded area in the woods next to a small stream to take the cow before killing it and cutting it up for transport back to the house. I guess it was about half a mile across an open pasture from where we were, so we took the rope in hand and started on our way. The night was bitterly cold and the moonlight sparkled off the frosty pasture as we tramped along, not a care in the world, until the cow, perhaps sensing its fate, decided to stop cold. No amount of pulling or tugging would get him to budge an inch. Finally, out of breath and ideas, we sat down, Bruce and I holding the rope, Floyd standing behind, panting from the exertion. Just as Bruce and I struggled to our feet, Floyd, still out of breath, said, "Hold on and I'll get this bastard moving." Before we knew what he was doing, he had pulled out his lighter and ignited it, holding the flame to the poor thing's balls. We caught a brief whiff of burning hair, and then with a bellowing bawl of pain, it took off at full speed, dragging us along, bouncing and sliding for what felt like an eternity before we finally got him back under control. We eventually got into the slaughter area. With a bad feeling already creeping in, Floyd picked up the sledgehammer and bashed him right between the eyes. Mercifully, he fell like a stone instantly, dead when he hit the ground. We had tried to plan carefully, not wanting to get caught or leave any evidence, so we brought along a box of heavy-duty trash bags to collect and transport the guts, head, and hide. This plan seemed reasonable to us, but have you ever cut a cow open? I swear it seemed like 500 gallons of blood, guts, and gore came pouring out. How we were ever going to be able to carry this away was beyond me, but it was too late to worry about that now. As you can imagine, the next few hours were some of the bloodiest, goriest, back-breaking work I have ever participated in, and it seemed like we would never finish. At last, around 5 a.m., we were finished and ready to haul back our toothsome bounty. I planned on throwing a steak on the stove as soon as we walked in the door. Each of us threw a section over our shoulder and headed home, excited, scared of getting caught, and starving. As we finally staggered in the back door with our load, Mom was ready for us. Still in her nightgown but ready to get down to business, she sliced off a couple of steaks and threw them on to cook while the rest of us got busy cleaning and butchering, all of us still covered in blood and gore. "What's that horrible smell?" asked Floyd. I lifted my head, sniffed, and realized to my horror that the awful smell was wafting up from our almost cooked steaks. "Hopefully they taste better than they smell," I said, and quickly fished one out of the skeleton onto my plate, ready for a well-earned feast. "Holy crap, that's nasty," gagged Bruce. As some of you have probably already guessed from the torching his balls segment, this cow was a bull, fully intact, and all that activity had flooded his system with male hormones, rendering it completely inedible. We'd ever got to enjoy the first bite of the damn thing. Suddenly, from outside, we heard someone on a bullhorn broadcasting loudly, "Come out with your hands up." Oh my God, we are so screwed, I thought to myself. Not only are we sitting here with stolen beef, which we can't even eat, but we have a room full of marijuana plants to boot. Mom sighed loudly and got up, saying, "If I'm going to jail, it won't be in this bloody nightgown," and headed off to her room to change. We sat there for a couple of minutes, terrified, waiting for the cops to come storming in. I took a deep breath and stood up, walking out the back door with my hands in the air, hoping not to get shot by a trigger-happy deputy. I expected to be tackled at any second. I peeped around the corner into the driveway and saw absolutely nothing. Not a soul in sight. I muttered under my breath, "What the hell?" Bruce and Floyd came sheepishly around the corner, as astounded as I was, as we tried to figure out what was going on. Looking up to the north, I could see a faint, revolving blue light in the distance. We got in my little Toyota, drove in that direction out of curiosity, and quickly discovered what had happened. A sheriff's car had stopped someone about a mile from our house and had used their bullhorn on them. The cold, clear air of the night had carried and amplified the sound, convincing us that it was right outside in our driveway.
Thank you for listening. Be sure to like, subscribe, and ring the notification bell so you won't miss the next story.